Fantasy managers, hello and welcome back to the final edition, the review edition of the FPL Addicts, powered by Esports Live Euro 2020 Fantasy Podcast. I want to start the show today by thanking each and every one of you who's been involved in both our free and paid mini leagues throughout Euro 2020. Those who've listened to the podcast and those who've kept up to date with all the latest on both our social pages, live now and at FPL_addicts. As Euro 2020 enters its final stages, it's over now. So at you 800 plus people that were in the community for this, just thank you. It couldn't have been built without you, and we really wouldn't be here without you. So a really massive thank you. But today we'll be reviewing the entirety of the competition, and with me to do so, as usual, is the regulars. We've got Jack from Esports Live now, Matt the Guru from FPL Addicts, Dave, and my right-hand man in the commentary box, Ollie Walker-Peel. So let's get right into it. We'll start with you, Ollie. How are you doing, mate?
I'm over the defeat now, which, it took me a little while to get over it. Obviously devastated, but I'm happy in the knowledge that in 2022 it's coming home. So, look, I had to get it in there, didn't I? Really proud of England throughout the tournament. Devastated that we couldn't get the job done in the final, but it is what it is, and we move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't agree with you more, mate. But it's a little bit early, maybe, to start saying it's coming home for 2022. But
never is. Never too early.
We'll see. But we'll move on to you now, Matt. How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Elliot. And Ollie summed it up well there. And another penalty shootout. I've seen a lot of those down the years, and it was just unfortunate. But props to Italy. I thought they played well over the 120 minutes, and they were good throughout the Euros as well. But again, I just want to repeat what you said. Thanks to everyone that joined our mini leagues, and it was brilliant fun. And the Discord, the banter in the community, it was great. And looking forward to doing it all again in the World Cup next year, and it will be coming home next year.
England fans are absolutely undefeated. The only non-England fan that we've got on today is you, Statman Dave. So how are you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm doing all right, except for, unfortunately, I've been forced into isolation today because I was at the MCG on Saturday and there was a confirmed COVID case near me. So it's been an interesting 24 hours or so since I found out about that. But got to see the final on Monday, and I was actually at the gym for the extra time and the penalty shootout, and I was riding England home fairly hard and got a few strange looks doing that from the rest of the people in the gym. But we had it up on the TV in there, so it was interesting way to finish. But look, disappointing way for England to finish. I was certainly hoping they were going to win, but wasn't to be.
Yeah, absolutely, and sounds pretty good. And fingers crossed when you do get tested, or if you already have, that it does come back negative. Obviously, we are mostly in Victoria here, and we've been put back into a lockdown for 5 days or so. So fingers crossed it just stays like that. And we've got all the time in the world to be thinking about Fantasy Premier League now. So that's all that really matters. So Jack, you're the last one that I haven't introduced. So how are you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm not too sure I've got over it that quick. Still, about to spend some time with Italians this week, unfortunately. So it's been tough in that respect. They've been giving me absolute pelters. But I did have a game on Wednesday night. I played against an Italian team and we beat them 9-8. So a bit of redemption there. So I did that for the boys. But it's coming home 2022.
Absolutely, mate. Well, just to cheer you up just a little bit, maybe we can move on to the paid league and the standings, the final standings for the paid league, and we will get onto you in just a minute, Jack, and yourself, Matt. But big congratulations to Marko Skokic, who I believe also took out one of the managers of the match day for match day 2. I believe it was. He won the battle out. So he's really come off quite well from this Euro Fantasy season. So big congratulations to you, Marco, and absolutely hope to see you entering it for the FPL as well, but just as long as you're not beating us by too much. But big congratulations to you, mate. And Jack, just a little bit off the pace, 7 points behind him. Are you happy with second, or were you really hoping you were going to be able to make that push for first?
Listen, as being runners up in the Euros and being runner up in this competition, never happy for second place, mate. When you play, you've got to play to win. Just didn't have enough in the tank there. Maybe a couple of differentials along the way would have been increased my ranking on there, but still happy. And listen, congrats to Marco. He's done great in there. He's come from behind as well to take it out, and I think he won about $280 altogether on there. So he's done himself a nice little bonus for him. So well done, Marco. And obviously, pat on the back for myself coming second. A big well done to the Guru as well for finishing third in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And Guru, you can have your little moment now. I still don't know how you've done it. I think back to I think it was the quarterfinals, and your team just didn't look like it was going to be in a very good shape. And you were talking about, you'd be happy with top 10, and you've managed to finish third. So how have you done it, mate?
I don't know. I actually don't know. I remember saying to Jack, you're right, after the Ukraine game, and I was walking along with Jack, and we were buzzing. England just won 4-0, and then we started chatting about fantasy. I said, Jack, I think I'm done. I think head's gone. I was all over the place, and I've recovered. So look, obviously I'm saying with Jack, I want to win. I want to finish top, and don't want to finish below Jack either. But he got the better of me, I think. Which is fair enough, considering what happened in the draft of FPL. But I was happy with that, and I managed to get the manager of the week on the last day, which I was pretty happy with that Luke Shaw goal, and Trippier in there, and a couple of others. So pretty happy to take some extra cash and at least make top 3. And what was a tough comp, I thought, very tough, lots of different
really
rules and
tough
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And, again, another congratulations to you, Matt, for, as you just said, manager of the match day for the final. So you get the extra 30 Aussie dollars in there as well. But as we can see there from Matt Gaston, he says, congratulations to my little brother James on his 4th place finish. And if you're not watching, then he has managed to finish 4th. And then if we go down just a little bit, in 10th as well. So the Gasdens taking out 4th and 10th respectively in our paid league, and they're definitely faces that we'll be hoping to see in the FPL leagues, Matt. But were you watching the game with both of them there?
Yeah, I was, and it is good fun watching the games with them both, because there's a good rivalry about fantasy with them two and stuff. And any time someone's over a corner or a free kick, we always mention the fantasy and the Euro League and stuff. So it was good, but they've both done well. James has done well. I think him and me were both neck on neck in third and same points, and I've just managed to pip him there. And then Matt's finished 10th, but it's pretty good going, because I think there's about 37 in this paid league, so he's done well to edge that top 10, and he's still building up his knowledge. So fair enough. And James just said then, well done on the 10th, Gazdan Guru number 2. So I guess we'll see in FPL next year who the true guru is. I think between those two, at the moment it's quite level.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to definitely be interesting, and as I said, they're definitely going to be faces that we're going to be hoping to see in the paid leagues as well, because for you, Matt and Jack, it's easy money just beating them at the minute. So you'll be absolutely thrilled if they'll be entering. But with the free league, which as we've mentioned throughout the Euros, that the point scorers, because there's 840 members in it, the point scorers are generally quite higher than the paid leagues. There's a lot of people in this free league that definitely should have been entering the paid league that definitely missed out on something there. And as we can see, Daniel Burke, who was the top ranked player in the free league heading into the final day, 449 points in total in first place. Mohamed Omar was another familiar face with the free league near the top, managed to get 434 points, and then Akif Zad has finished third with 421 points. And it was interesting, we were talking about it before, Matt, if we go back just a couple of weeks to we had, I think he was second in Australia, and he was something ridiculous in the world, FPL Spike. We don't know if he's watching out there, but we've had a little chat with him and stuff like that, and he sort of fell off just a little bit. I think it was quarterfinals again. I think it was the week that you were having your mare, or the week before, that he was doing really, really well. But as you can see, he's sort of just tapered off a little bit, hasn't he, Matt?
Yeah, he did. And I follow him on Twitter, and we have a bit of interaction on there. And he was gutted, to drop off, because he was just doing so well. But he did make it to the Euro final, which is he flew from Perth to London, and he made it there for the final. So I know he was buzzing to be there. And look, if you're listening to FPL Spike, when I can get myself over to WA, we'll catch up and maybe watch a Brighton game or something. I hear you're a Brighton. I think you're a Brighton fan, so we'll watch a Brighton Spurs game together and chat FPL.
Yeah, that'll be quite interesting. Well, if you are listening at FPL Spike, if you're out there, Matt spends usually half his life out in WA, so I doubt it'll be too long, given the restrictions and everything that he's back over there, because he absolutely loves the sunshine and working from the comfort of the beach over in Western Australia. But yeah, definitely, as I said, should have been one that probably should have entered. Can take solace from the fact that if he was in the paid league, he probably would have, I think he definitely would have finished second, actually, because the only person above him is Marko Skokic. But yeah, again, just a massive thank you to everyone, the 840 people in the free league, and I think it was around 40 in the paid league as well. So massive thank yous to you, and that wraps up for the standings for Euro Fantasy. So if we move on now from the big leagues and how most of the top people went, and we bring it back down to reality a little bit with people like Ollie in the league and stuff like that near the top. As
You got 17 points more than me, mate. You didn't even do that well yourself, mate. Pipe down.
17 more than you, mate. So that's all I really care about. But we'll just have a little review of the final week, just ever so quickly, and then we'll get on to bigger, better things. So Jack, 31 points in the final. If you can get through it as quick as you possibly can, just to quickly go through the pain, then just take us through it, mate.
Yeah, keep it brief. I made a couple of moves in there. Went with Sterling and the captaincy. Put Immobile up top. I should have left him out. He was shocking ever since I think first game on. I think they took him off quite early on in the final as well. Played without a striker. To mix things up, like I brought Verratti in, but I left him on my bench. That's who I was going to swap for Immobile, and that would have maybe edged me a bit closer to that first place. But Luke Shaw delivering. Chiesa I brought in along with Mount. Obviously, Chiesa was having a great game on until he came off. He looked really dangerous. And then, Pickford picking up 3 points. Obviously, the captaincy didn't work out, but Trippier and Shaw, the ones delivering within the first 2 minutes. So obviously, we were buzzing at that, and then it kind of, just all fell apart after that. So I think at that point, I was pretty comfortable because the Guru and James, who were breathing down my neck, had pretty similar teams, and no one was really performing. So I knew by then the fantasy kind of one that was in the bag, but not that I was thinking about that during the game because I was too busy screaming at the telly. But yeah,
I don't doubt that either, mate.
Yeah, no, it was very full on. I was all in, but good. Listen, happy with the team performance overall. And he was obviously just going into that final. It was a bit of a gamble what was going to happen on it. Maybe could have gambled on Luke Shaw possibly. The Guru did mention that to me before kickoff, I think it was. But yeah, didn't fancy it, but should have backed him.
Yeah, and as you can see, we spoke about it just before with the paid league, but 388 points overall and 12,648th in the world. It's been a really, really good performance for me in this Euro Fantasy, Jack. So, just personally from you, did you think you were going to do this well?
No, I mean, first time you're obviously using this UEFA app and website and navigating through all these different rules compared to FPL. Obviously, learning all these, the new rules and stuff. It was I never expected anything going into this, and obviously kind of picked it up, and I kind of like the man management of it and swapping players around and changing the captain around. I didn't actually mind that, to be fair. I think it's quite a bit more tactical, and you have to think a bit more, and you're a bit more involved in it. But yeah, it was a bit of a surprise finishing where I was. But like I said, when you want to go into something, you do want to try and win it. So yeah, enjoyed the experience with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, there's a lot of really high scoring weeks that you had, but your top one was match day one. And if we just have a quick look at that, just how quickly things change in this sort of tournament style fantasy, doesn't it? Because you can see, your final team was all white and blues, and this is all different sort of jerseys and colours. So it really, really has been a really good competition. But, 75 points as your top. And as we said, 388 points and then 12,600th roughly overall. You should be really, really happy with yourself, mate. And obviously you do come home with a little bit of money in your pocket as well, which is rightfully earned. And yeah, absolutely just a really, really top job all round from you there, mate. But yeah, well done. And we'll move on to the Guru. Another man, as we said just before, done really, really well this season. If you just want to take us through your team ever so quickly as well, mate, just for the final, really, really quickly. Obviously, 37 points, manager of the match day. What went right for you?
Yeah, I think getting Trippier in at the sort of last, hour before kickoff, really helped because he come in with that early assist and having Luke Shaw in there. And I just thought before kickoff, I'm just going to go all in on England. You know, they'd made it to the final. I thought I'm just going to back one team. Let's just do it. So actually worked in my favour with the whole Shaw and Trippier situation. Then Bonucci got a goal as well. So that's, you know, I think obviously wasn't happy that he scored, but you know, once that went in, that pretty much got me the third place. So having those goal scorers and the assist for England really helped me. And yeah, look, happy to come away with some cash and stuff. And yeah, but I would have liked to beat Jack. I'm not going to lie. You know, finishing second, not what I wanted. I wanted to finish first, but you know, well done, Jack, on winning this Pod Mini League. You did well, and yeah, I think you deserved it in the end. So.
Wow, it's a little bit of flattery from
Just
the
Matt,
guru.
kind words, that mate. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I was going to say, Jack, you must be really flattered with those.
If you want any tips for next season, yeah. If you want any tips for next season, knows where to go. And let me know.
Tips. No, I won't be taking tips. So.
God.
That's all right, mate. Enjoy your bronze medal.
Hey. Silver in this one. Silver in this league, yeah.
God. And then, you know, as we can see, 385 points overall, so just 3 off the place behind Jack. And, you know, it shows how competitive it is because it sets you back around, you know, 3,000 ranks worldwide. So those 3 points equates to about 1,000 per rank. So that's quite mental to me. But I do want to go back to not your disaster week, but your week where, you know, everything wasn't looking too great for you and you had to just, you know, back all the Italians and none of the Belgians and just pray that they got you through. And, you know, that's probably that was the turning point of your season. You weren't having a terrible season up until that point, but that was the one that really was that the one that made you believe that you could do it as soon as Italy won that game.
Yeah, I'd say once I saw Italy went through, I thought, all right, there could be a chance for me to kind of turn it around and push up the league a little bit. But yeah, that week where Italy were, I think it was Austria in the round of 16, and they conceded that goal at the end, and that really probably stopped me from, you know, winning the league and taking the cash, and I think the Mbappe choice as well. So yeah, a couple of bad decisions, but then when Italy hung on and progressed to the semis and probably kept me in this comp. So yeah, happy with that in the end.
Yeah, and again, a really, really good job from you, mate. And just back to the Mbappe thing, I'd really love for Chris Reed to make an appearance just so we can ask him to sort of review his tournament just a little bit after all the talking up that he did in the pre-season for it, saying he was going to be the must-have player. Made me fall into his own little trap. So yeah, still not forgiving you for that one, Chris, and probably one of the last times that I take advice.
Neither have I.
Yeah, not happy about that one, Chris. But anyway, if we move on to my team for the final, 26 points. You know, I thought Saka was going to get the start. Obviously, I did go to sleep a little bit beforehand, so I wasn't awake for the lineups, but I didn't make any transfers from that point. I didn't think to even think of fantasy at that point, to be honest. So got Saka in, you know, players like Grealish and stuff like that, and just other than Luke Shaw, all round it was just absolutely nothing from me. So that was sort of how I went, but as a whole, I was a little bit disappointed with myself. As we can see, didn't really have too many, you know, brilliant scores for Euro Fantasy. But you know, as Jack was saying, was most people's first time, and you know, all different rules like the changing of the captains, and you can make transfers up until the deadline and everything like that. It's just so different to FPL. So it's a really diverse and unique sort of form of fantasy because I don't really know too many that are like that. I've only really properly played the Premier League one, so I'm actually quite excited to get back to that and, you know, have one captain pick for the week and, you know, your one transfer a week and everything and your 3 players from a team. I'm actually going to find a little bit of comfort in that. But yeah, I wasn't too happy with my performance, but in the end, you know, that's what it is. As long as you beat Ollie, that's all that matters to me in fantasy ever. So as you can see, I did manage to do that, so that's all that matters. And Ollie, 28 points for the final for you, mate. So you did manage to beat me in that, so you can take that little trophy home, the beat Elliot in the final trophy. So what did you make of your final game week, mate?
Yeah, again, like you, I was just once I woke up an hour before the game, I didn't care for fantasy whatsoever. I knew how big a game this was for England and wanted to take it all in, so I obviously didn't change my captain. So, you know, obviously Calvin Phillips is my captain. I mean, he nearly scored, to be fair to him. Like, he was probably the closest that any England player got other than Shaw, who actually scored. So, look, it's been a shocking tournament for me, hasn't it, really? I mean, I finished like 20 points off you. and you're saying you've had an average tournament. Well, it's not been a good one for me, really. I just couldn't wait for it to be over from a fantasy point of view. Just get me back to FPL because this has been a shambles.
Well, mate, you weren't the best at FPL either, so you finished behind me in that one as well. So
this year is different. Okay? This is different.
Well, it'll be interesting.
You know what, mate? I hate how I can't even say anything back because you just keep getting more points than me. It needs to change. It needs to change.
Mate, that's all I play for. All I play for is beating you. As long as I do that, I'm happy. I'm content,
mate,
and I can move on.
You're like Tottenham here, mate, with all these fake trophies. I tell you what.
Mate, we'll take anything.
So you at this point, Elliot. Bloody hell.
Too funny. And then, the final man on the podcast who's, he's been a face on the podcast for most of the season now. And obviously he's self-isolating, as he said, at the minute. So I don't want to depress him a little bit too much further with reviewing his fantasy season. But, Dave, 30 points in the final. So it wasn't, for the final, that's a really, really nice score. So just take us through your team, mate.
Yeah, so I did okay. I think a couple of tweaks and it could have been a lot better. Like Verratti and Shaw hit for me, but not a great captain choice with Sterling. But unfortunately, Bonucci, leaving him on the bench wasn't the best move. But also, similar to what Jack said, I was tossing up whether I was going to keep Immobile on the pitch and ended up keeping him there. I think had I swapped Bonucci for Immobile, that would have been pushing for the manager of the week with the Guru there. But yeah, oh well.
It's the fine margins in fantasy league, isn't it? And the hindsight's a beautiful thing in it as well. But as a whole, Dave, you were quite you were actually quite not confident. I don't know what the word would be, but you were quite excited by the prospect of all this and everything like that. Something new, and obviously it was a new thing for most of us as well. So, have you enjoyed your sort of tournament?
Yeah, no, I have. I've been sort of up and down like a yo-yo. I saw the Guru scores were quite consistent, which is probably why I finished a fair bit ahead of me. But I did manage to get the highest match day score out of any of us there with the 82 there in match day 3. But outside of that, the two sort of really poor weeks that I had sort of has kept me a fair bit down the list, unfortunately. So I think where did I end up finishing? I think I ended up finishing in the 200 and something in the free league and about 25th or so in the paid league.
Yeah, and it's all the learning experience with Euro Fantasy for me as well. There's a lot of new rules, as we've said, and a lot of differences to FPL, which we predominantly played for most of the season. So we've all done pretty well, other than Ollie. So we can all be happy with that and move on. And yeah, that's sort of how our team sort of went for the whole of the tournament. That wraps up that section. So if we move on now to sort of just a more general review of the Euros, we did it for Fantasy Premier League last season. We'll sort of just build an 11 aside, and we can do subs as well if you want. But I've decided it's going to be a 4-4-2, and it's going to be our fantasy team of the tournament. So we're not thinking about how well they played in real life. We're thinking purely on fantasy, having them as an asset, differential, or whatever. How good they were for most people's teams. So we will do a 15-man squad, but we'll start with the 11 first, and then we'll move on to the bench. So Ollie, because you did so well, I'll give you the pick of the goalkeeper, first pick, mate. So who for you was the standout keeper in between the sticks? Got a lot of people points. Who do you think it was?
I'm going to be biased here, and he wasn't the goalkeeper of the tournament. He probably should have been, but Jordan Pickford for me, unbelievable, clean sheet points all over the place. Cult hero with his, saying no problem before saving Jorginho's pen. Absolutely brilliant. He's a Macam Elliott, so you'll obviously love him. But no, Jordan Pickford for me, I thought he was incredible. Yeah,
absolutely, mate. And, he didn't manage to concede from, what's perceived as open play for the whole of the tournament. So he definitely, as a Geordie, he obviously Sunderland born and bred, so it's a little bit hard for me to give him credit, but credit where credit's due. He was brilliant for England, other than I think he had a little bit of an off game in the Denmark game, but I'm still not convinced that he's had a properly bad game in an England shirt where I've been unhappy with him, which I know a lot of Everton fans have been at times with some of his performances. So he's not sort of had any performances similar to that. So I think it's a really, really good pick there. And, if you had him for the whole of the tournament, you're consistently getting clean sheet points and save points and all that sort of stuff. So I think it's a really, really, really good pick from you there. But we'll move on to the defence now, Matt. And, I would like to say we'll do a left back, right back and 2 centre backs, but just pick whoever you want, because we all know in Fantasy League, it's the fullbacks that get you the points and they're the ones that really matter. So we'll give you first pick, mate. Who are you going to go with?
I will go with Luke Shaw for his performances, especially in those, later stages, those last couple of the Ukraine game and getting the goal in the final as well. So yeah, I'll definitely put Luke Shaw. He really impressed me in this tournament, and I think he's got to go in there from a fantasy perspective.
Yeah, and was he sort of a surprise for you? He definitely was for me, because we started off the tournament against Croatia and Kieran Trippier was starting at left back, and then it's sort of in and out of the team just a little bit. So he's done quite well, don't you think, to sort of solidify his place in our sort of fantasy team of the tournament?
He's done really well. I think he did surprise me because I know how good he was in fantasy last year with United, and he was popping up with a lot of points. But Chilwell was another one who I thought he was going to get the nod ahead of Shaw. Shaw, he really did surprise me, and he's got me thinking now for fantasy Premier League at $5.5 million. So yeah, no, Shaw. Obviously, I'm a left footer myself, so love seeing a good left-sided player.
Oh, he must, difficult decision from Southgate to take Shaw to the Euros instead of you, then, mate. I'm sure he's having lots of restless nights about that, wishing that he took the Guru just so he can sort the team out just a little bit. But yes, probably he was one of England's definitely players of the tournament for me, and he was absolutely brilliant. So it's a really, really good pick from you there as well. But Dave, if we move on to you now, and you've got to get some sort of Belgium assets in your team, somewhere if you can. So is one of them going to be a defender?
Yeah, well, certainly Muniz has made my sort of team of the Euros. I think, he had a couple of massive scores there. I think he holds, was it Muniz that's got the highest individual score of the tournament for a match round, I think. I think it might have been Muniz that did that.
It was his week 1, wasn't it, where he got the him on as a sub. Score. Yeah.
So, certainly, although Belgium didn't make it that far into the tournament, he's certainly someone that is probably in most people's team of the year, I would have thought, or team of the tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. He was one that a lot of people were backing going into the tournament. Didn't manage to get the start in the first game against Russia, so it was quite an interesting one. But if I can pick the third defender, it's a difficult one, because there's a lot of great fullbacks, but I think one man that was in contender for player of the tournament before he did manage to find himself injured. I think he tore his Achilles or something like that. Was Spinazzola from Italy, the Roma player. As Jack said on one of the previous podcasts, he's excited to see how Mourinho is going to ruin him this season and just stop him attacking in any single way that he can. And I think it'll be a real shame for him, to be honest, because every time I watched him, he was really impressive, really attacking, solid defensively, and helped a lot of people out. So he's probably my pick. And then Jack, you get to round off the defence. Are we going to have any centre halves in this defence, or is it just going to be 4 fullbacks in defence?
Well, in terms of obviously clean sheets, John Stones, I think, scored, maybe like 34 points overall, which is, inside the top 3 or 4, with obviously Pickford with the clean sheets and Sterling and Shaw. So Stones really should be in there with the clean for him scoring. But I think, Denmark's Marler was obviously exceptional. If I could have him instead of Stones, then I'd pick him and have that full back in there. But it's he was outstanding. I'd be excited to see if anyone actually comes and picks him up, in Europe and brings him in, because he had such a good tournament.
Yeah, he was absolutely brilliant for Denmark, really integral to their success at Euro 2020. And, as we said, he had a really, really good tournament. So that caps off the defence. So we got Luke Shaw, Thomas Meunier, Leonardo Spinazzola and Marler. So, Ollie, you get the first pick of the midfielders now, where we're sort of getting into a little bit of the big money players. So from the midfielders, mate, who's your first pick?
I don't know why like people are going to me for advice with this team, because obviously I didn't do anything in fantasy, but I think Jorginho Wijnaldum for me is one option. Obviously had a brilliant game. I think it was maybe Dave's team. I think I had him captain at one point, and it helped him get up there. I thought he looked really, had a bit of quality about him, Wijnaldum. So I'll go with him to start the midfield.
Yeah, absolutely. He was, after a fairly poor season with Liverpool. I'm sure most people would agree there. He wasn't great at all. Sort of just looked a bit static. We sort of played in that sort of free role in the midfield, wasn't he, for the Netherlands? And he sort of just exploded, didn't he, Ollie?
He did, and he looked quality when he got on the ball as well. Obviously, going forward, I didn't watch too much of the Netherlands, but from what I saw, he obviously going forward, he looked decent. In fact, I think the Netherlands was one of the teams I watched the least, to be fair, at the Euros this summer, if I'm being completely honest. But he did fair enough. Did Wijnaldum got himself on the score sheet, a few attacking returns, so it might be a quality going forward. Obviously, he's left Liverpool now, so I'll have to see what happens next season with him and how Liverpool fill the void. But in terms of the Euros, I thought he did well.
Yeah, you're gonna have to get him into your Champions League fantasy team or something because he's at PSG now. But you'd imagine that he's going to probably have a fairly decent season out in France with PSG. But he had a really, really good tournament, and he's definitely earned that big money move. So Matt, if we move on to the second midfielder now, there's still a lot to choose from. There's a lot of really standout midfielders at the tournament. So who are you going to go with?
Well, I'm going to go with a player. I know Matt Cowlin's watching the pod, and he just posted a comment. So I'm going to go with one of his players that he scouted early on. He's a Liverpool fan himself. I'm going to go with Shaqiri at Switzerland, and I think he got an assist in the first game. He got that double in the last group game, which was just phenomenal. He got more points in the knockout rounds, and I think he come out and just showed what brilliant international footballer he is, and the ability that he's got. So I think he has to go in there for me. He was just producing in most games.
Yeah, absolutely, and you definitely helped me out in the week that the Swiss were unfortunately eliminated. I know Reedy was really upset about that. Big lover of the Swiss, as he's sort of affirmed himself as. But Shaqiri, he always does it at the tournaments for Switzerland and in big games. He's just big game player, and he always seems to pop up with a couple of goals and assists all the time. So definitely a really fair pick. And then if we move on to the third midfielder, Statman, who are you going to go with, mate?
One a little bit out of left field that we've sort of spoken about on the pod in the last few weeks is actually Verratti. So he missed the first two games, but he still managed to score 21 points. And he didn't get a huge amount of minutes, but he was scoring between 3 and 6 in every game, and had the big performance in the final as well. Something a little bit different. But I think for the games that he played, he was as consistent as anyone.
Yeah, absolutely. He was, a really, really brilliant player at the Euros, and definitely worthy of a space in our little fantasy team of the tournament. But I can't believe no one's mentioned his name so far, and you can call me a biased England fan all you want, but Raheem Sterling, what a tournament he had. He definitely shocked most of us, but I think he got 39 points in total, goals, assists, winning penalties. He did everything for England this summer, and he was, when people were saying that he should be starting over Grealish and stuff like that, you got to be some player. But for me, Raheem Sterling sort of capped off that midfield there. But as we can see there in the bottom left of the screen, Chris Reed just popped up with his head to just enlighten us a little bit about how good Mbappe has been at the Euros.
Is he going to apologise?
Sure, man. Maybe next year, boys. Maybe next year, eh?
I think so, mate.
Right, Elliot, I know Mbappe. What happened to him, eh? Mbappe obviously lost his head. Couldn't deliver for France, could he? I had big hopes for him, but it wasn't to be, So I was quite happy with that, to be honest, though. I'll be honest with you, quietly happy with that, because obviously the Swiss turned up big time, beating them on pens, so Sterling's the man, as you said.
I didn't even realise that was a pretty difficult game for you to watch then. I would imagine that the France-Switzerland game, because on one hand you got Mbappe, who's got the chance to keep the French in it, but then on the other hand it's the Swiss, so you had to...
What's going on here?
Well, fingers crossed you haven't frozen, and you can pick one of the two strikers, Reedy, that really stood out for you this tournament, fantasy-wise, that you maybe had in your team, that got a lot of people points, but a striker, a forward, who would you pick, mate?
Well, what I found most difficult with that? What I found most difficult?
I think we're having some technical issues with Reedy.
I think he said Mbappe. Didn't he? Well, Jack, we'll head over to you then. You can pick the first striker.
Just
Fingers
quickly
crossed
before
it's
I
not
pick
on bad
that,
day.
I was more surprised in that game that Granit Xhaka played well, because that never seems to happen, basically.
All right,
He's getting there. He's getting there.
He's got to be on a delay or something, doesn't he?
Yeah, I'll kick him off for a minute.
Oh, he's
All
got.
right. I'll kick him off. I'll tell him to come back on. But striker-wise, I'll put us all out of our misery, what everyone's waiting for. Ronaldo, 100%. He's going in there. Obviously, the big man delivers. He's been there, done that. He's won it before. Obviously, everyone was kind of writing him off before the start of the tournament. He was, I think he went from the most picked and then he dropped down slightly. And then, obviously, he delivered, 31 points, scored, grabbed himself a couple of goals along the way as well. But Portugal obviously just didn't go deep into the tournament, which is probably why he didn't obviously score more, obviously. But it was, listen, the legend delivers.
Yeah, and it'd be rude to not include the Golden Boot winner in the tournament as the best striker. So he's still doing it in his we say old age. He's still kicking and still breaking records, still impressing everybody. So hats off to him, and definitely a worthy spot as one of our forwards. But Ollie, just make you a little bit happier with your underperformance of the Euro Fantasy, we'll let you pick the last striker for the teammate. So there's still a lot to choose from. There's a lot of forwards and midfielders that really impressed me at the Euros. So if you had to pick one, who are you going to go with?
Well, now that we're saying don't bother with subs, there's now a bit of a burden on me here. But there was two tied on 5 for goals scored at the Euros. One being Ronaldo and the other being Patrick Schick. So I think I've sort of got to go with him up top. Obviously scored twice against Scotland. Obviously scored the goal from halfway that everyone talks about. He came into the tournament as a bit of an unknown quantity especially to Premier League fans with him playing in the Bundesliga. But no, he was decent. Obviously scored a couple of good goals. Thought he was going to win the Golden Boot, but Ronaldo edged him out. I think, was it because he had one more assist than he did or something?
Assists.
Yeah. So Patrick Schick for me. Obviously the Will and E look-alike. So we'll go with that.
Yeah, and I think that's a pretty fair team. So if we just run through the team now, it was Pickford, Luke Shaw, Munier, Spinazzola, and then it was Marla. It's a memory game this now. It was Marla.
Yeah,
and then Ollie went Wijnaldum.
Yeah.
The Guru went with
Wijnaldum was one.
Shaqiri.
Wijnaldum, Sterling.
He went with Shaqiri. I went with Sterling. Dave went with Verratti. And then Jack went with Ronaldo and Ollie went with Schick.
There we go.
So I think
job done.
it's a pretty decent team, that, isn't it? When you think about it, if you had them,
not bad.
If you had them in your team for the whole of the tournament, then you'd consider yourself quite lucky, and probably one of the top ranking players in the world, because they were absolutely outstanding fantasy wise, and made our job pretty easy. Those sorts of players, but it's an interesting game. We've spoken a lot about the rules and sort of differences between FPL. I've just got a couple of questions for you, lads. Sort of just contrasting the two sort of different fantasy competitions. So just asking for your thoughts. We'll start with you, Matt. And you are a differential man. The Guru. You've got your differential section on the podcast and everything like that. Do you think it was easier or more difficult to find differentials for you in Euro Fantasy compared to FPL?
I definitely think it was more difficult as the tournament went on, because obviously there's less teams and less players to choose from, and everyone kind of has the same side. But early on, I think there was a lot of unknown quantities that did quite well. Obviously, like Schick was a big differential to begin with. Mahler at Denmark, Højbjerg become a bit of a differential as well. So I think early on, it was good, but then obviously as the tournament went on, it sort of faded out. But early on in those group stages, there was just differentials flying around.
Yeah, absolutely. It was, the buzz of when Fantasy Premier League starts, and, you see the prices, and with the Euro Fantasy, you're all just looking for those little hidden gems if you can find any. And, we'll obviously talk about the ones that we sort of found in FPL over on a Fantasy Premier League podcast. But there was a fair few at the start of the tournament. The players were, priced pretty well, I thought, for the tournament. So I definitely agree with you there. It's just the nature of the tournament, isn't it? As it goes on, the teams narrow and there's only a certain couple of assets that you'd really want in your team. So that's what's so good about FPL, is that 38 game weeks, 20 teams. That's differentials galore, isn't it? So definitely agree with you there, mate. But we'll move over to you now, Ollie, with this question. And just, do you think that the scoring system in Euro Fantasy is a little bit different to FPL? You know, obviously you get points for winning penalties and stuff like that. So do you think that, especially the penalties one for me, you know, you obviously get the assist in FPL if the person does put away the penalty, but do you think that maybe the FPL should move towards the sort of, if you win the penalty, you should get the points instead of an assist?
It makes more sense, doesn't it? The winning penalties, because obviously you're not credited with an assist if you go down and win a pen, like logistically, are you? So it makes more sense to have it as a winning penalty, but it's 1 or 2 points. Is it one point, isn't it? So
2.
In the grand,
Two.
And how many is it? So how many points do you get?
Difference.
Was it 2 for one? Yeah, 1 point difference. So
1 point.
in the great fugue of being, really, to be honest, it's not really that big of a deal. 1 point's 1 point, so it's not really worth talking about. There's not really massive difference between the two of them. So look, I would go with the other one. I would go with the Euro Fantasy way of doing it, of going down and, you know, obviously having a winning penalty rather than assist, but it doesn't really matter. It's difference.
Yeah, well, if you put it into a little bit of context, you know, the Raheem Sterling one where he won the penalty for Harry Kane, in FPL he obviously wouldn't have been credited with an assist because Kane missed the first penalty. So, you know, if you had him in your team for FPL, he wouldn't have got you any points. So I definitely agree with you. I think that, you know, the winning the penalty is probably the way that they should go forwards and that sort of stuff. But yeah, that's just the Euro way of doing it. And there's definitely things from each competition that are better about the other. One of them, Jack, you spoke about it a little bit before, was the captains and subs mid-match day. You said you really, really like that and you thought it was a little bit more tactical and stuff like that. So is that something you'd like to see FPL maybe explore?
Listen, I think it'd be nice to explore that one, but the idea, obviously, the tournament and the league one, you like to have those different, the different strategies. So I think I won't like to see all the things different, you know, to transfer over to FPL. I think having 2 separate different tournaments and 2 different styles is the exciting part of it. And having different strategies around it. You know, the tournament's a short hit. I think being able to just manage the squad rather than just your team. You know, in FPL, obviously you tend to put your cheap assets on the bench and load up your starting 11. Just, you know, and in the Euros, just having that ability to use your squad is, I think it's quite an exciting feature. But I wouldn't want that. You don't want to be greedy and have all the best things in one tournament, right? And switching between the two. You know, I'm already excited about the World Cup. You know, obviously next year, and using the UEFA app to do that, and, you know, but having a break of that in between with FPL.
Yeah, absolutely. Probably couldn't agree with you more there, mate. I think, you know, that sort of thing works quite well for the tournament sort of format, but for FPL, I'm not too sure how well it would work. But we spoke about the chips pretty early on in one of our first podcasts, Statman, and the limitless chip. When we looked at your team before, you know, you got 80 odd points with your limitless chip. So is that another thing that you thought worked quite well for Euro Fantasy, and is one that, you know, maybe instead of the free hit or something like that FPL could include?
I think it's a really good in a short format, like a Euros where you've only got 7 match days, when you sort of need things that can sort of differentiate teams more so, whereas it would probably be less effective in a 38 round season. But, you know, certainly for me, it worked quite well if you make those right choices, but I'm just not sure that it necessarily achieves that much in a 38 round season in FPL. You know, potentially it means you can chuck an extra couple of sort of premium players in there. But I think if anything, I think you could probably do away with the regular wildcard in Euros, especially because you get the sort of a sort of a wildcard at the end of the third match day. Yeah, look, I think it's probably not going to be as effective, but it still could be useful.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, definitely agree with you there. As you say, there's a lot of, you know, only a couple of rounds in Euro Fantasy, so they've got to differentiate players and, you know, put one above another in some way, shape or form. So definitely agree with you there. But, you know, second last question, got one for Ollie. Do you think that UEFA, you know, need to upgrade their servers just a little bit so people don't have, you know, difficulty getting onto the app and stuff like that, mate?
Brilliant from you, Elliot. Brilliant comedy. Oh, you are a joker, aren't you? I didn't realise we had a comedian, mate. You're a host, you're a comedian. What else can you do, mate? Bloody hell.
I'm expecting an answer. It's a question.
No, I just need to improve my own FPL game. It's not all about UEFA, but if you let me log into your game, it would be nice. But the blame's on me, isn't it?
It's a direct message to UEFA is that Ollie's not happy with you because he couldn't get onto the app one time, and you've ruined his FPL season. You've ruined it for him. He's not doing the World Cup one next year now. He's not happy with you.
I will, but I just won't do very well as usual.
Sounds about right. Yeah, it sounds about right, mate. And then as we see, we've got a little comment here from Renee. Matt, would you like to read it out? Considering it is Renee, would you like to?
Yeah, so she's just asked, after the recent cups, do you have a favourite for the World Cup?
It's a very good question. Jack, we'll head over to you for that one.
Oh, after the progression of Southgate, England, come on, 100%. It's going up and up, semi-final, final in the Euros. Only natural that we win in the next one.
Love it, mate. Dave, what about you?
I'm probably thinking along the same lines. I think there's only some small tweaks that need to be made, and they can turn that, into a win instead of a runners-up medal. So, yeah.
Well, I think we might nearly have 5 English fans on the podcast by this time next year, possibly, by the sounds of things.
Statman's been turned. Love it.
Got to get him an England shirt for the World Cup. Ollie, are you in agreement there?
I'd like to say so, but just for the non-biased fans out there, I'll say England, obviously, because I want England to win. But I think Brazil will also be up there. To be fair, obviously won the Copa America. Runners up in the Copa America, I should say. Obviously, Argentina won that. Maybe should have won the Copa America, but didn't. They were right up there. Probably the best side in South America, or obviously one of them. So I think they'll be up there. I think England will be up there. There'll be a lot of teams that'll be up there. I'm going to say England, but I'm going to say England or Brazil for me. And just
listen to all the nations of the
world. God's sake, I'll say England or Brazil. I sound like Matt's curveball captain's here, but I just want to see what this guy'll say. But obviously, I don't know if you can bring up the comment. This Stu MC or Stu Mac or whatever, he is fuming with England at the moment. So
yeah,
if he's still about, mate,
he commented one of the other weeks.
Yeah, he's commented on everything but fantasy, so we'll probably leave the comment off.
Yeah, probably best there. I was about to count the Swiss up for you, Reedy, but have you got a stable connection now? Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I think when you mentioned Mbappe earlier, I choked, mate, and I think the camera might have switched off by accident on purpose.
Yeah.
So,
sounds about right.
Sorry about that, boys. We've all had our tech issues over time. Usually it's not me, so it's nice to have a change, isn't it?
Yeah, we're just going through our favourites for the World Cup next year, Reedy. So I'll go to Matt just before you. So Guru, who's your pick?
Argentina for me.
Yeah. One last dance for Messi.
Last chance for Messi. I think there's some good players coming through there. And like Ollie said, I think once the South American sides come in there, it just changes the whole tournament. And I think they'll be suitable to Qatar and the conditions there. I know it's in their winter, but I think it will. I think it will benefit Argentina. I'm feeling an Argentina-Portugal final. Ronaldo v Messi one last time. Let's do it.
Wouldn't that be a spectacle? Wow.
They're crazy. Well, I think the Argentina one's a good shout. Obviously, they've got a goalkeeper now that they've never had.
Oh, yeah.
Sort of thing. With Martinez in there, and I think they've become a different beast, haven't they? But I think defensively, that's where Argentina. Imagine Argentina-Portugal final. That'd be crazy.
Oh, and I agree. I think the problem is that defense with Otamendi, but they've got. I think they've got one Foyt coming through who was injured for this Copa. Looks quite a good player, and Martinez changes it, and their attacks just. I think Dybala missed this tournament with an injury, so once they get all those sort of players back, I think they're my favourites for me.
Yeah, absolutely. A really good shout there. And Reedy, as much as you'd like to say the Swiss, do you think it's realistic that they could go all the way at Qatar next year?
Don't think so. Obviously the Euros is a lot shorter tournament, and there's not as many good teams. It's not as competitive, I don't think. Unfortunately, I don't think the Swiss will. Hopefully, Granit Xhaka doesn't make it by then either, because although he had an absolute blinder against France, he's drinking bottles of Coke before the penalties, So it just says a lot about him. But I think if I had to predict someone, top of my head, it's a difficult one. I don't know. I'd expect France to bounce back. really unlike them this Euros to be so poor, and with the squad they've got, so much talent. You know, that man Varane might be at United next season, hopefully not. But I don't know. I think France are capable of putting in a good shift for the World Cup, so I'll go for them.
Yeah, and I think, for me as well, it's between England and France. It's going to be the same as the Euros for me, so it's going to be one of the two. And just off pure English bias, it's going to be England. I think it's no penalty shootout, heartbreaks again, and we're going to start rewriting our own little bit of history. But that sort of wraps up our thoughts on Euro fantasy. So that brings the final preview Euro 2020 Fantasy podcast by FPL Addicts and powered by Esports Live to a close. A reminder to follow the social pages, which are at Esports Live now and at FPL_Addicts on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook, as well as heading to www.e-sportslivenowcom.au/FPL Addicts for the link to the Discord and information regarding the upcoming Fantasy Premier League season, which we will touch on in just a minute. So again, well done to Marko Skokic, our very own Jack Gillibrand, and our very own Matt Day for the prize money. Really well earned, lads. But finish off.
Well done.
Yeah, top job. Enjoy your little moments because fantasy. Yeah.
When it comes to FPL, we know they're gonna, their heads are gonna fall off, especially Jack. Beginning of the season.
Hey, getting advice from you, yeah, probably.
Jack, have you got anyone you'd like to thank being the best on the podcast? Have you got any shout-outs you want to make? Your victory speech?
Listen, I just want to give a big thanks to my family. The massive supporters, allowing me time to do the pod. My fiance, she's been really supportive, giving me advice as well, motivation. I'm all good. It's been great. It's been great fun, and big thanks to you boys for the support and the guru for passing on his tips and then not doing it himself, but me taking it.
Yeah, not wrong there, mate. So again, really well done, lads, and thank you for the tournament so far, and thank you to all of you out there for enhancing our tournament as well. 840 members in the free league is still just surreal for me, so massive thank you. You've really enhanced all of our experiences along the way as well, and really made this tournament quite special for everybody. But just before we head off quickly, you can see on screen in just a second for the FPL mini leagues, for both paid and free, the league codes for the free league, as it says on the screen now, it is 1KSRYW for the free league, and then for the paid league, you've got to head to www.e-sportslive.com.au, as I've been corrected by Statman Dave in the chat for giving out the wrong website URL. So just a final wrap up. Thank you so much to all of you out there. I really, really can't emphasize it enough. You've really made this tournament what it is, and fantasy really brings everyone together, as we've seen in our Discord and everything, and fingers crossed it just keeps growing and we see all of you over in the FPL, and may all your FPL dreams come true for the season. Hope all your Euro fantasy dreams came true for the season, and thanks again, lads, and take care, stay safe. See you in Fantasy Premier League. Goodbye for now.